The Caribbean Sea is tense as U.S.-Venezuela relations reach a new dangerous phase. For years, the U.S. has refused to recognize Nicolás Maduro as Venezuela's president, backing opposition leader Juan Guaido instead. This dispute has led to sanctions and diplomatic standoffs, but now, military action is on the table. The Trump administration recently launched a major counter-narcotics operation, sending advanced U.S. military assets near Venezuela's shores. Officially, it's about stopping drug shipments, but many see it as a direct warning to Maduro. This is the largest U.S. military deployment in the region in decades, signaling a shift from economic pressure to possible confrontation. Venezuela, once wealthy from oil, is now in economic collapse, with millions fleeing hunger and repression. The U.S. blames Maduro's policies for the crisis and believes only a change in leadership can restore stability. The presence of U.S. warships so close to Venezuela creates a high-stakes environment where any miscalculation could spark conflict. For Venezuelans, this brings hope for change but also fear of military intervention. The international community is split, some back the U.S., others call for dialogue. At the heart of it all is a battle for Venezuela's future. The world is watching as the stakes have never been higher. The situation remains fragile, with every move carrying enormous risk. The next chapter could reshape the region for years to come. The U.S. has made its intentions clear with a powerful naval deployment off Venezuela's coast. Several Navy destroyers, littoral combat ships, patrol aircraft, and helicopters now monitor the region. A special Marine task force is on board, ready for a range of operations. Officially, the mission is to combat drug trafficking, but the scale suggests a dual purpose: pressure on Maduro. By framing it as a counter-narcotics operation, the U.S. justifies its presence under international law. The show of force is designed to make Maduro's government feel surrounded and vulnerable. This military buildup is a strategic move, projecting power without firing a shot. The constant presence strains Venezuela's military and creates psychological pressure. The U.S. hopes this will create cracks within Maduro's regime. It's a high-risk strategy, walking a fine line between coercion and open conflict. Every day, the threat of escalation looms. The U.S. has accused Maduro and top officials of narco-terrorism, alleging ties to Colombia's FARC rebels and massive cocaine smuggling. The State Department has offered a $15 million reward for Maduro's arrest, treating him as a criminal, not just a political adversary. Similar bounties target other high-ranking officials. This frames U.S. actions as a fight against a criminal regime, not an attack on a sovereign nation. The narrative aims to build support at home and abroad, casting the U.S. as liberators. Maduro denies all charges, calling them a pretext for invasion, and blaming U.S. demand for drugs. He accuses Washington of imperialism and seeking control of Venezuela's oil. The conflict is now a battle of narratives, criminal regime versus foreign aggression. The stakes are as much about perception as power. The U.S. is not alone. Over 50 countries, including many in Latin America and Europe, recognize Juan Guaido as Venezuela's interim president. Key allies like Colombia, Brazil, Canada, and the EU have imposed sanctions and provided humanitarian aid. These sanctions freeze assets and ban travel for regime officials, aiming to isolate Maduro's inner circle. The coalition gives legitimacy to U.S. actions, showing this is a coordinated international effort. Collective isolation is designed to weaken Maduro's grip on power. However, not all allies agree on military intervention. Many prefer a peaceful, negotiated solution and are wary of U.S. naval deployments. The coalition supports strong diplomatic and economic pressure, but draws the line at armed conflict. This difference highlights the complexity of the crisis. The U.S. must balance its strategy with the concerns of its partners. International unity is strong, but methods remain debated. The world's democracies are watching and waiting. Under pressure, Maduro responds with defiance, appearing in military attire and ordering exercises to project strength. He frames the conflict as a fight for sovereignty against U.S. imperialism. Maduro has sought support from China, Russia, and Iran, recently receiving Iranian oil shipments in defiance of U.S. sanctions. Aligning with America's rivals, he turns a regional dispute into a global standoff. Maduro bets the U.S. won't risk a costly invasion, hoping to outlast international pressure. Internally, he maintains control through patronage and repression, rewarding military leaders and cracking down on dissent. This dual approach keeps his inner circle loyal and opponents fearful. Despite economic collapse and isolation, Maduro's grip remains firm. His strategy endures until the world's attention shifts. The stakes are survival, for his regime and for Venezuela's future. Every move is a gamble, with the country's fate hanging in the balance. The world watches as Maduro plays for time. Maduro looks to China, Venezuela's biggest creditor, for support. China has loaned billions, expecting repayment in oil, and is seen as a potential counterweight to US power. But China is unlikely to offer military help. Its foreign policy favors economic interests and non-interference. Beijing's main concern is recovering its investments, not defending Maduro. The economic collapse makes repayment difficult, putting China in a tough spot. Quietly, China has engaged with Venezuela's opposition, hedging its bets. China will likely offer diplomatic and economic support, condemning US sanctions but avoiding military involvement. Beijing's loyalty is to its money, not Maduro. For propaganda, Maduro touts China as an ally, but the reality is more complex. China plays a long game, adapting to whoever is in power. In a direct US-Venezuela conflict, China will stay on the sidelines. Maduro's hopes for Chinese rescue are likely misplaced. The US military dwarfs Venezuela's in every way: budget, technology, and global reach. US Navy carrier groups, nuclear submarines, and advanced aircraft far outclass Venezuela's aging Russian-made jets and limited navy. Venezuela's forces are structured for internal security, not repelling a superpower. In a direct war, Venezuela would stand no chance. But a US intervention would not be simple or risk-free. Limited actions like blockades or airstrikes carry dangers, including escalation and civilian casualties. Venezuela's air defenses, though imperfect, could still inflict losses. Loyalist militias could wage guerrilla warfare, dragging out any conflict. The US has learned from Iraq and Afghanistan military superiority doesn't guarantee quick victory. The human and political costs could be enormous. Many US officials and allies remain wary of military force. The risk of destabilizing the region is real. The path forward is fraught with peril for all sides.